All right, I want to go over the starting of the next assignment. This one's going to take a little bit longer just because it's more complex than the previous one. In this one, we're going to be using a 3D rendering, but we're going to be integrating 3D rendering with 2D stuff. So the idea with this one is we would have a scene like this. We have all of these screens and we want to be able to replace all of those screens. The end product will have an actual animation of the character there named Jerry, kind of walking up in front of him and maybe interacting with one of those screens. So our first step in this is to get this process set up. Once it's set up, this is something that really could be taken into other avenues. So if we were to actually shoot an actual green screen piece of footage and animate the camera and track the camera, we could then use that as how we would set up all of these types of things, okay? So the setup for this is going to be, ignore that for a second, is going to be somewhat big because of all the different things that we have to bring in. So I'm going to make a new scene. I'm going to attempt to make a new scene. You're not doing anything, just make a new file. There we go. All right. And then this is the 3D scene that we're working with. So you don't have to do anything in the actual 3D. Your job will be just to composite all of these things together. One of the things you'll have to do is find something to put on, maybe not every single screen. You can use maybe, let's say, at the very least half of these or more, okay? So if you don't want to use like the top, middle, and the bottom ones, maybe you just want to use like that one and this one, or this one and then those two, okay? So I want you to use a good majority of these. He's going to be interacting mostly with these front ones here. He won't interact with the other ones, but getting it all set up will be our first task. Close that window because now I have this other one open. There we go. So first thing I'm going to do is set up my project settings. So I'm going to go over here to my full-size format and make a new full-size format. Because of this, the way that this is being rendered out, it's not 1280 by 720. We're going a little bit deeper and wider with this one just to kind of fit in more of the video footage. So if I look at what the settings are in here, anytime I deal with a 3D camera or a camera, I want to make sure that all of my settings match across the board. So whatever he renders out at, that's the same settings I want to use in my nuke file to make sure that those settings match up as well. So my settings in here are 2560 by 1080. That's going to give us a pretty wide field of view to see. So that's what I'm going to set this up to. So I'm going to make a 2580 by, or 2560 by 1080. Oops, 1080. There we go. So that's how wide it's going to be. So I'm going to hit OK. And there it is. So now that's the screen that we're going to be dealing with. And this will be rendered out at 30 frames a second, and this will be a 300 frame animation. Then I'm going to go up here to my project directory, and I'm going to set up my stuff. This, and, sorry, 3D integration. And then I'm just going to save this into that folder. 2560. There we go. All right. So I'm going to bring in my footage. So I'm just going to go to read. All of the footage will be inside of that Dropbox folder that I gave you. That's on the link. And I'm just going to copy this so I can paste it and then click on it here and then view it. Okay. So this is the original piece of footage. It is just Jerry standing there like this. And you'll see the camera's animated, and then I need to add in all of those other things. Now if I were to render out all of those screens inside of 3D, if I decided later I wanted to change one of those things, I couldn't do it. I'd have to go back, re-render out the entire thing, and then fix it up. Something like this, very quickly I could just drop in a new piece of footage and everything will still work, okay? So that's the flattened out version of our rendering. This is a placeholder. He doesn't move yet. he will move eventually. Now I'm going to read in my other stuff. Oops. So here's the other things that you get. You get these Fbx files, and you get an ABC file. Fbx is a common translator between different 3D programs. It can save animation information. It can save geometry, bring in cameras, whatever we need to. The ABC file is an Alembic file. It's another way that we would go from one software to another. For whatever reason, Jerry's hair would not come over as an Fbx, so it's an Alembic file. Still works, it's just an Alembic file. So I'm going to read those in. They're geometry, so I don't just read regular files in. I go to my read geometry node, and then I bring them in. So I go here, I again paste my thing there, and I'll just bring in one thing at a time. So I'll bring in my camera first. That should be fine, that should be fine. There we go. It took a second to load. Okay. Now I'm going to take this, oops, I didn't want to bring the camera in. What am I thinking? The camera doesn't go there. Body in, there it is. All right. If I hit tab here, there it is. You'll see that we have Jerry's, part of Jerry's body at least, that gets brought in. This is just his clothing. If I go over here to the node name, I can change it to head and just get his head, or just get the arms, or whatever I need to. If I want everything, I click on all objects, and boom, all the objects come in there. Okay, so that's this one. I'm going to copy this, paste it, and then I'll add another node. So this will be Jerry's hair. Oops. Yeah, the hair one didn't work. Let me just delete the hair one. You don't need that. There we go. Hair ABC, there it is. Okay, and now his hair comes in, and he's no longer bald. All right, now let's bring in more stuff. Let's bring in the screens. And we get one screen, okay? Now, if we were to bring in all the objects like this, all the screens would be there. But what that means is, if I go into this and I were to add a, why can't I think of it? Color bars, there it is. And I drop this on here, they all get the exact same image. So we don't get the ability to split this up and have different images on each one of these items. So this is where we have to bring in each one of these screens as a separate piece of geometry. Then we can feed in a different image for each one, or different animation for each one. Okay, so I guess I can leave that hooked up for now. So I need to not have this be all objects. I'm going to go to my node name and just pick screens 1, that's the first one, and then I'm going to copy and paste it, connect it to this, double click, and then go to screens 2. And then copy and paste that again, drag this here, and you get the idea, then go to screens 3. Okay, and I just do that same process over and over again. To save time, I'm just going to paste 3 of these, and unfortunately there's no way to connect all 3 of these at the same time. And I'll only do a couple of these, and then we'll get to the gist of the rest of this. 5, 6, okay. So we'll leave that like it is. I would grab the rest of them and do the same thing. Now, to connect everything together, just like the last assignment we did with the camera tracking, what was the thing that brought all the geometry together?
It was the scene node?
Yes. So we create a scene node. Now, if I create a scene node, I can drag this to each one of these. By the time you get down to all of them, it's going to be 18 different nodes. A quick tip: it's easy just to grab all of them and hit scene, and then boom, they're all connected without having to do all that other work. And now I'm going to drag Jerry into there with Jerry's hair. And this looks exactly the same as it did before. Okay, so Jerry's still there, his screens are still there. What goes after a scene node? Camera, right? So let's add a camera. It doesn't go after, it goes on the side of it. So go 3D camera. That gets connected. And then this is how I read my camera into Nuke, is I go to File, Read from File, and that's where I load in my Jerry Cam. Do you want to replace the data? Yes, I do. And my frame rate is 30. And now what we get is this camera that's transferred from Maya into Nuke, and it's animated and follows the exact same motion that I had inside of the other software. Now I would go to a scan line. Here is my scene. Here is the camera. I'll just scoot these down here. And I could connect this to the background, but we're going to get some things that don't let us obviously control those two different things. Like, there it is. I can't see Jerry on top of this. I need to see Jerry on top of this, otherwise it looks weird. Okay. So I'm going to add a merge. This is the top. Yes, this is the bottom. And then I'm going to view it. Now we still don't see Jerry in here, so I'm going to do Shift X this, and you'll see that we basically get one or the other. We're either going to get Jerry and nothing, or we get this version of Jerry and the screens. Okay? So this is where the setup part comes in, because we have to be able to take the screens and render them out just on their own, and then have Jerry on his own, and then put those two things together. So if I look at my render here, and I go to my alpha channel, you'll see there's a perfect cutout of all of these things. So if I go to my scan line and just add a pre-mult, then look at my merge, you'll see that they're still in the exact same spot that they were a second ago, okay? Right? So this is cut out, so we see this. This is cut out, so we see that. This isn't helping. We need to do, oops, there we go. We need to do something a little bit more advanced to basically cut this guy out of the scene so he's not there, because that's the idea. He shouldn't be there, but the screens should be there. If I go to find these ones, and I add a constant here and a constant there, I change this to RGBA, there we go. Okay, now what that does is it basically gives this no alpha channel, so that when it gets piped through, there's no alpha channel there. Okay, so when we get down to the very end of this, you'll see we just have the screens, no Jerry. Then the screens get cut out with a pre-mult. Then they get merged over, and there we go. Now this is where we're going to run into a little bit of trickiness. I'm going to go to, I think it's 190 is the frame. Okay, so Jerry is behind the screen. So part of our mission has been accomplished here. I want him behind the screens. That's one of the cool things about being able to do this. If I put this, right here, you'll see definitely he's behind that, okay? Now, let's go and I'm going to duplicate these a couple more. So I'm going to go and copy this and paste it, connect all these ones in, or try to connect them in. There we go. And then I'm going to pick different ones. I believe they are, this is this. I believe it's this one, 13. It's thinking, oh, I have to connect it to the scene first. Let me do that. I want the ones right behind him to show up. All right, it's not 13, it's the next 3. 10, there it is, yep. And then 11, and then 12. Okay, so Jerry is being cut out from the front screens, but he's not being, the screens in the back are not being cut out by Jerry. Okay, so there's the issue. So what we have to do is we have to be creative with how we combine all this stuff to get exactly that. So let me switch over to my other one, and you'll see this huge mess that I have here. That's what's going to make this work. Okay, these 3 nodes basically. So I'm going to go to my other one. And instead of this being a constant, giving the Jerry layer some color, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to make a new channel for this, just as very similar to what we did on the game controller where we create our own masks and pipe those masks into the rest of the scene. And I'm going to call this Jerry, and this will be called Mask A. That's fine. Hit OK. So now you'll see he gets cut out from here. So now let's go look at the scan line. If I hit A, you'll see Jerry is still in the scene. I'm going to go back to my color bars. This is what I had to do. Yes, okay. I'm just verifying what I did. I'm going to add a shuffle on here. And you'll see there's just Jerry. I'm going to fill the entire thing with white. Black. Double checking. Yes, white. Okay, so everything's filled with white. And again, I'm just kind of verifying that my settings are correct based on my last one. Cool. So now I have this here. Okay. Now I need to get rid of Jerry. I need to cut him out of this stuff right here. If I go to these masks and I look for Jerry, you'll see that nothing shows up. Wherever he went, way up here. This constant is filling the mask Jerry with no red, no green, no blue, and no alpha. So there's basically no information in here. If I pull the red up, we should get, I'll pull all of them up. Well, we should have gotten something. Let's see. Scan line, yes. It's thinking. No. Let me double check. This. That's what that is, yes. There's my Jerry mask, yes, both of those work. It comes into my scan line. I should be able to see that. There it is. It just didn't update. Okay. So now if I go to Jerry or mask, you'll see that Jerry is right here. Okay. So all I did was make this constant. Instead of giving it a color, it's giving it a mask. And so that mask will pass down through all those other channels. Now what I need to do is take the mask, which is, scoot this down, which is right here. Okay, so this looks the same. You'll see that it's the color bars are here. Jerry's actually cut out of the background, but my alpha channel is still a solid color where Jerry is. So if I were to pre-mult this and view it, you'd see basically a black cutout of Jerry right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge the two masks. Scoot that down, scoot this down. Okay, so I'm basically going to take the regular alpha channel, take the Jerry alpha channel, and I'm going to minus them. And so what this is doing is it's taking the screens, taking the Jerry mask, and just subtracting it out of there. So we should end up with an alpha channel like that. That's our goal, is to get the alpha channel to look like this, so that as it moves, and I'll scoot up a little bit, you'll see his arm is cut out as it goes this way. You'll see that he is perfectly cut out of where those shapes are. Okay. Now this is not an alpha channel. This is giving us an RGBA. So I'm going to say send this to the alpha. Okay, and now I have this like really clean alpha channel, and then I can take that and pre-multiply it, and then that and put Jerry there, and there he is, perfect. Cool. That's right. Scoot that over, scoot this over. All right, so eventually I'll have to organize this stuff so that it makes more sense. All right, so color bars went into the shuffle, just a placeholder for now. My constant has a Jerry mask it's creating. That goes on the Jerry body and hair. That goes to my scan line, which then subtracts the Jerry from the alpha. We pre-mult it, we merge it, and then we get what we get. I think I can, yeah. All right, so that's the initial setup. So now what I would do is go through and just start replacing each one of these things with something, or however often I want them to be. These three, the first three, should be there. Those are the ones right in front of him. Screens 1, 2, and 3. The other ones, you can kind of pick randomly which ones you want to be in the scene. So, come on. There it is. So I just disabled that screen. And I can disable, let's say, these two screens back here. There we go. And I would do the same thing again to all of them. Cool. And then I would just grab a piece of footage. In this case, I'll grab D drive, P drive. $560. Nope, not 2560, 25. Yeah, that's fine, whatever. I would most likely go into Nuke or into After Effects, make a little animation of something that looks like it's kind of coming out of the screen, powering up, and use that. Oh, that's why I'm in the wrong folder. 1900, there we go. Hologram, output. It went into the other folder, that's right. There it is. All right, and then all these are set up so that whatever footage you drop in there that's 960 by 540, that same perspective, it'll just be like right there. Okay, so once you're done with your camera tracking, you can start working on this, getting this part set up, getting footage into those chains. Each piece should have a way that it comes on. We don't want it to just be there all of a sudden. We want Jerry to be standing there and all these screens kind of like power up. When I showed the other assignments with the iPhone and whatever else, I showed some different ways you could animate those things, so you can jump back to those if you need to. All right, questions? All right.